Good morning, grade 12 geography learners. My name is Mrs. Japhta, and I will be presenting the fourth and final segment under urban settlements, namely urban settlement issues. Before we start with the lesson, I'd like to remind you once again to please go to the website. There are worksheets and answer sheets that have been uploaded on rural settlement issues, and there will be additional worksheets loaded this week as well. Please, number one, also revise all your concepts related to urban and rural geography when you revise, and also make use of your textbooks to ensure that you cover the correct content associated with these lessons. Also, please go through your examination question papers, revise the question paper and the memo together with your worksheets. Let's start off with today's lesson. When we look at urban settlement issues, it's important for us to take note of the following. Our urban areas are continuously growing and they are changing. This makes it necessary to carefully plan in order to make our urban areas better places in which to live. Urban planning is very necessary. It's there to also try to limit or solve the very urban settlement issues and problems we are basically going to discuss today. Unfortunately, in our own country, South Africa, a lack of planning has led to many issues arising, and many of them are those issues issues that we will be discussing in today's lesson. Those issues are related to housing shortages, overcrowding, traffic congestion. Many of these are the issues that we will be covering in today's lesson. Let's look at these issues individually, and it's important that you know all your urban settlement issues for the exam, and when you study your urban settlement issues, please study them knowing the following. You must know what the issue is, you must know what causes the issue, you must know the effects of the issue, and you must know the solution to the issue. Let's look at them individually. Let's start off with traffic congestion. In other words, there's too many cars. That means it means there's too many cars on the road. If you go to your major cities, urban cities, this is a common problem. It's not only a problem in our country, but it's across many big urban cities around the world. What are the causes of this problem or of this issue? There's too many people using their own cars. There's not enough public transport, and it's because usually of old street patterns. And if you remember, in the previous lesson, we actually did street patterns, and we actually told you which street pattern causes traffic congestion. So you need to go back to your street patterns and then also look at it when you study the specific problem. Many people today are able to afford their own cars and would rather use their own transport to basically get to their work. So that is the reason why there's too many people using their own cars in urban areas. For them it's convenient, and also there's not enough public transport in certain cases. So for this is one of the reasons why there's too many cars on the road. The effects thereof is that cars give off carbon monoxide, and that is air pollution. And that is the reason why we can speak about air pollution actually increasing in urban areas, because there's too many cars on the road. There's more accidents, and this is a common thing that you will always, most instances in the mornings, people who live in urban areas will tell you about the accidents that occur. Many people who travel to their places of work, because they sit long hours in traffic because of this congestion, they have stress, they also have a lot of health problems, and a common feature is road rage. There's many instances of road rage that has occurred. Some of it is very mild, it's not something that happens every day, but in most instances it's very serious, and the rage, or let us say the road rage incidents that occur, sometimes is fatal. And you read about it in the newspapers on a regular basis. Let us go to the solutions. We can improve there can be an improvement in public transport. People can use lift schemes. There can be the decentralization of businesses, taking more businesses out of the CBD, and then also to synchronize traffic lights. In other words, make traffic lights work at the same time, so that it causes less traffic congestion. Let us move on to urban decay, which is the second common problem. That means when parts of our urban areas are decaying. In other words, buildings are becoming derelict. The building is not having the same features. They're becoming old. The structures of the building is basically not the same. The building is defaced. In other words, people are damaging the buildings. There's destruction of the entire building. This is many examples of urban decay. If you look in the slide over here, you'll see a building. You'll see a building over here where you can actually see the building has been defaced over here. You can see the building structure is basically decaying. As you can see, it's not the same. It doesn't look beautiful as probably as it used to be. So this is a common feature of an area, or let us say a building, that is busy, let us say, decaying. And this zone is called the zone of decay, and we did this in the previous lesson. So the definition, or let us say, it's where part of the city or areas are basically overused. What is the causes thereof? There's too many people living in the city, and there's empty buildings because many people have moved out. They cannot stay in the buildings anymore, so they move out. And because they move out, what will be the effect? Slums develop. Right. When we say slums develop, in other words, we talk about these buildings that are so old and so derelict. It's slums. What is a slum? What happens in the slum? The services decline. There's no access in these slums. There's no electricity. There's no water supply, etc. And they're being invaded most of the time by migrants. And it increases pollution, and the area in general becomes dirty because there's no service delivery to these buildings. What can be the solution? The solution can be that these areas, let us say these buildings, or the area as a whole, can be renovated. It can be renewed. We can reduce the density of housing, and services can be improved. So That is our second settlement issue. Let's look at the third one, overcrowding, or too many people in the urban areas. There's too many people moving into the city. Many of the people that move into the city usually come for better job opportunities. And again, people, learners, if you can remember, this particular section we did when we did rural urban migration. Please remember, go back there and then you find out why many people move to the city. Why? Number one, the causes is there's a high demand for land in the city as well. Why people want to live in the urban areas, and there's too many people living in the urban areas. Right. Then, what are the effects? There's increased pollution, health problems, destruction of the environment, production of too much waste. This is the effects thereof. Then the solutions: decentralization of functions, green belts, in other words, planting of more trees in the area to make it more appealing, and then obviously there must be stricter control of pollution. So these are some of our urban settlement issues or our problems in urban areas, and it's very important, learners, that you go to your textbooks and go and look at all the other urban settlement issues that you find. These are the most important ones that you should know. Now we go to one of the causes of urban settlement of urban settlement problems. In other words, informal settlements. Informal settlements is one of the issues that we find in urban settlements. And informal settlements are basically found in each of our urban areas in South Africa. It's a common occurrence. Learners, it's important that you know these issues and that you, number one, revise them through your exam questions as well as the worksheets. It's a section of the work that you can score easy marks. These are issues that you can relate to. You always see these, you can see these issues on a regular basis, you can relate to them, and it's common in your area as well. So take note of that and answer your questions as they appear in your question paper. Let's look at this urban settlement issue closely. What is it? It's a illegal settlement which is made up of makeshift dwellings and usually made from scrap metals. Where is it? It's on the edge of cities. Some can be up to 30 kilometers away from the CBD. What are the problems in an informal settlement? Remember, the urban settlement is made up of scrap metals, and it's usually made up very easily. It's usually made up overnight, and it's a makeshift dwelling. And because of that, there's lack of infrastructure there. There's no proper sanitation. There's no clean water, electricity, and refuse removal. There's lack of amenities. There's a high risk of fire, and the population density. High population density, because many people, as in the previous slide, many people want to move to the urban areas. If you look at the picture of this urban settlement here, you can see the makeshift building. You can see it's made of scrap material over there. You can see there's no real structure here, and this is what we call an informal settlement, right? So take careful note of what it is, where it is, and the problems related to it. Let's look at the other urban issue or other urban problem. What is it called? Urban traffic congestion. Here we have a diagram where we have a map of South Africa with major cities and metros, and it's basically giving us information on traffic congestion in these areas. There is information on the specific map, and we also have a graph over here. So when we look at this, we're going to basically ask you questions on urban traffic congestion, and it is taken from this diagram, or what we call an infograph, because it gives information and it gives a graph. Firstly, let's read what is contained in this specific infograph. Traffic congestion in Cape Town costs the city 2.8 billion rand a year, as the failure of people, goods and services fail to reach their destination on time leads to lower job growth, loss of productivity and decreased investment. A well-functioning public transport system is fundamental to address the worsening condition. Staff arrive late and need time to recover, leading to poor customer service, stress-related illness, and more sick days taken. Let's look at the questions that was asked on this graph. The first question was, name 2 South African cities with heavy traffic, moderate traffic, and light traffic. Let's go back to the graph. They said name 2 South African cities with heavy traffic, moderate traffic, and light traffic. So the heavy traffic ones, the red, in the diagram you will see red taking the form of a robot. So your cities with red heavy traffic will be Johannesburg, and there's Pretoria. Your cities with moderate traffic, with the orange ones, it will be Durban, Port Elizabeth, or East London. Right. Your traffic with light traffic, your cities with light traffic will be Kimberley, Bloemfontein. Those will be examples. So from the diagram you can now see, if you look at your major cities, your big cities, you can see the percentages, the high percentages in terms of traffic. Johannesburg has got a high percentage of 23.3%, Pretoria 13.3%, Cape Town 16.3%. So from this you can see how the percentage of traffic in these major cities. If you go to other cities, it's much lower, and you can see the difference in the cities in terms of the traffic, and it will tell you that the major cities have quite a number of cars on the road. Right, let's go to our next question. And our next question says, which South African city has the heaviest morning traffic? So now again we go back to our graph, and if we go, it says which South African city has the heaviest morning traffic. In other words, if you look at the morning peak over here, it will be Cape Town has got the heaviest morning peak. In other words, in the morning the peak of traffic is at its highest. So it will be Cape Town. Our next question Arrange the cities from the highest to the lowest according to the morning traffic peak. Right, so let us go back to our graph over here, that morning traffic peak. From the highest, it will be Cape Town, will be the highest. The second highest will be Johannesburg. The third highest will be Pretoria, and then Durban. It's important, learners, that you're able to read the specific diagram, and this is where you get easy marks. Our next question is, how much does traffic congestion cost the city of Cape Town a year? And again, if we go to the information given here, it says traffic congestion in Cape Town costs the city 2.8 billion rand a year. Our next question says, what according to the article could be done to address worsening traffic congestion in Cape Town? In other words, they're basically asking for the solutions. What are the solutions to traffic congestion? And remember, we did that in our first slide, and you need to go through the solutions to traffic congestion. Let's look at them again. Traffic congestion here, what are the solutions? In other words, must improve public transport, there must be lift clubs, they can decentralize businesses, and synchronization of traffic lights. There's the solutions to the problem. Let's look at the next one. Discuss 3 possible effects that traffic congestion could have on the city and the people of Cape Town. Again, you go to your effects. There you have your effects. Right? It's air pollution, there's more accidents, stress, health problems, road rage. That is the effects. Then write a paragraph. Remember your paragraph questions, learners. And it's important that you please listen to your teacher, and your teacher would have given you how a paragraph question should be written, and basically that it always counts 8 marks. Please take note of the mark allocation with each of these questions, and you can see how easy it is to score marks. Write a paragraph approximately 8 lines to the editor of the Argus in which you give possible solutions in response to the challenges stated in the article. So once again, go to your solutions in your solutions to traffic congestion. Here is a slide which gives you the answers to traffic congestion. Let's go to our second rural settlement issue and look at how a question can be asked on informal settlements. They can give you a case study on informal settlements. They can also give you a case study on any of the issues on the urban settlement issues that you need to know. So it usually comes from newspaper articles. It's usually on the internet. There's quite a lot of case studies on the specific issue, urban settlement issues. So it can be given to you, and then you need to extract the information from the case study in order for you to answer your question. Here's another case study. This is taken from a daily news article, and it reads as follows. Most of the major fires attended to in recent years by the eThekwini Fire Department were in informal settlements. In July, a fire engulfed, let us say the meaning of that means surrounded, 300 shacks at the Kennedy Road informal settlement and killed Tembenkosi Ngwangwa. Winter is especially a time to be on high alert, as there is an increase of fires breaking out. It took firefighters 10 hours to put out the fire that rapidly spread through the informal settlement. In May, children aged between 4 and 7 years died while sleeping in a shack when it caught alight. In Verulam, existing settlements remain at risk due to the nature of construction material used, spacing among shacks, emergency accessibility challenges, and human behavior, among other causes. So this was basically the case study. And if you look at it, it basically gives you it gives you the causes, it gives you the effects. Yeah. But let us have a look at the questions that are related to this. It says you need to define what an informal settlement is. According to the newspaper article, why is there an increased risk of fires in informal settlements? Why does the occurrence of destructive fires increase in informal settlements in winter? In a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, explain how the local municipality can reduce fire hazards for people living in informal settlements. So in the first instance, we had to define what an informal settlement was. It was when people occupy land illegally, when people live in self-constructed structures that is made of any available material. It says, according to the newspaper article, why is there an increased risk of fires in informal settlements? It's the nature of the construction material used, spacing among structures, emergency accessibility challenges, human behavior. Why does the occurrence of destructive fires increase in informal settlements, especially during winter? And it says that people light fires using paraffin heaters. Mostly it's to keep warm. There's increased use of paraffin, gas stoves, there's increased use of coal wood, illegal electricity connections, negligence, open fires, material that is used, increased use of candles to generate light. In a paragraph of again approximately 8 lines, remember learners, your paragraph questions explain how the local municipality can reduce fire hazards for people living in informal settlements. And there are a number here that you can go through. Provide safe electricity, solar panels, provide proper infrastructure, provide regular policing to monitor illegal connections, establish community forums, increase access to potable clean water, create safe aftercare places to ensure safety and supervision of children, access to community walls in case of emergency, demarcate specific plots for people to settle, build informal brick houses, increase awareness programs, install fire hydrants. So here you find this is the answers to informal settlements. This is easy marks you can score in the exams by simply going through your content and revising past question papers. Learners, we have come to the end of our urban settlement geography. What is important is that, again, when we looked at the revision of urban settlements, you need to revise and know. If you go through your textbook, if you go through exam guidelines, you need to know all of the following as some of the issues that we've covered. The origin, development of urban settlements, site and situation of urban settlements, the classification of urban settlements. Remember, we went through central places, went through urban hierarchies, we did urban structure and patterns, we looked at land use zones, we looked at land use models, we looked at the changing nature of our urban areas, it's important that you go through your rural settlements as well. Go through all of the questions and the worksheets that we covered there. It's very important. Again, know each of your concepts for every section of the work covered under rural and urban geography. Please download the worksheets. Make use of those worksheets when you revise your work. Revise all your past question papers. Work through any additional material that has been provided to you. Number one, use your textbook. Use your Mind the Gap. Use your survival kit notes. Use any material related to your work. Having said that, it's also important that you also revise your map work, and also remember that urban geography and rural and urban settlements can be applied to your map work as well, on topographical maps and on orthophoto maps. You will be asked to identify your urban settlements or your rural settlements. Then you will be asked to also identify street patterns on an orthographic map or on a topographical map. So it's important that you also revise your map work with your urban and rural geography. It's also important that you revise your climatology and your geomorphology. And also remember that rural and urban geography can also be applied to your topo sheets and your orthophoto maps. Having said that, we will be doing for our next lesson next week, we will be concentrating or starting off with economic geography of South Africa, which is the last section of your work for grade 12 geography. So we'll be starting off with that in a new section, and it's important that you please start reading through that section, because it's quite a long section, and it's again a section where you can score very easy marks. So please read through that section in the meantime, and again look out for worksheets on economic geography of South Africa, as well as the audio-visual lesson. Thank you very much.